Hello and welcome everybody to the Jet Life Podcast. My name's Tom Lelyo, and on this channel, we pull back the curtain. Whether you're a buyer or an aspiring broker, we help you buy and sell private jets without wasting time, losing money, and with no experience necessary. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on real estate versus aviation, and I'm very excited to be introducing to you my guest, Noah Ward, who is a real estate broker, a custom home builder, and a content creator extraordinaire. I mean, you got so much stuff going on right now, Noah. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today. So welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I can't wait to jam out about this. The broker life versus the jet broker life.
Yeah, exactly. I guess one of the first questions I had, what is I see real estate agents, I see realtors, I see brokers, I see builders. Can you kind of unpack that for us? So again, I guess the main audience for today is anyone that's thinking about a career change and they want to learn more about aviation, possibly. That's why they're on this channel. But maybe they've also been thinking about real estate because, everybody has been bit with the real estate bug in the last couple of years. So can you maybe unpack the different roles that we can find in real estate?
Oh yeah, exactly. So, I don't really know the whole jet broker lifestyle, but for real estate, there's different tiers basically. So typically in real estate, you either are a real estate agent or you're a real estate broker. So I hold a broker's license. I'm a broker associate under a brokerage that I'm with. I don't really have my own brokerage just yet, but I have the license to be able to, if I wanted to start my brokerage today, I could. But that's not the first step. The first step is just getting a residential real estate license. You basically take a test, you do all the pre-exam stuff, and then that's your first license. And then here in the state of Florida, you have to hold that real estate license for 2 years or more before you even can go do the practice exam and do all the questions for the broker's test. And then obviously there's other branches off from in real estate besides just having your license is one, you can go into general contracting, which I am now partners in a custom home building company. My general contracting partner holds the license for it. He doesn't have a real estate license, but he has a general contracting license. It's still in real estate. He can't do residential sales, but he can do, the custom home building side and the remodeling side where I traditionally couldn't, which that's why, for me at least, it makes sense to have that partnership with my general contractor and then me who holds a real estate license.
Gotcha. And so what's the difference between a real estate license or a real estate agent and a realtor?
It's honestly just your designation at this point.
Okay.
It's you pay into the NAR, National Association of Realtors Association, to have that designation of realtor.
Gotcha. Okay. So ballpark, if you wanted to get into real estate, you don't have any real estate background, how much is it going to cost you and how long is it going to take you to get up and running to maybe your first sale?
So obviously I wanted to expedite my process just a little bit more. So I went all in. I was spending 8 to 10 hours a day doing the pre-licensing exam because that's, I can't remember if it's 72 hours here for Florida. So we have to go
you
through.
have to study for a certain amount of time?
Yes. Yeah, we have to study for over 72 hours. In theory, you either can go do a crash course or do it online. And then you can then go for your real estate test from there. So if you think about it, you can knock that out in about a week, give or take, on your time frame. And then from there, then what we have to do is, you got to wait to do your fingerprints, which can take a few weeks and just depending on the time frame. And then from there, you just have to apply for your MLS board, your local board. And then obviously then you're officially licensed and you can start practicing real estate. So I would say in a matter of a couple weeks, you could have it all knocked out. You could go into real estate. Now getting your first sale is going to depend on your connections.
Okay. So weeks for the certification. Okay. Or the license. Is it a license or certification?
It's a license.
Okay. So a license means something that you now have the ability to practice a specific discipline, in this case, real estate, residential real estate transactions. So a few weeks to the license, and then getting your first deal. I mean, are you usually warm leads, cold leads? Does the brokerage give you leads? Do you have to find it on your own? Do you just kind of have a call list? Like, what does that actually look like on your first, 30, 60 days as a real estate agent?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of tricky. It all depends. Like for me, I personally moved from Wisconsin, moved down here to Sarasota. I did not know anyone, right? So I had no, which most agents rely on, right? When they get into the business, they start talking to their friends saying, "Hey, I'm an agent. if you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell, just let me know. That's literally the typical spiel that any other agent will do. But like for me, I couldn't do that, right? So I leveraged video initially when I got
Yes.
into real estate, when I first got my license. So I created a YouTube video, and my experience is a little bit unique because in my first video, within the first couple of days, I had someone call me and they're like, "Hey, no, I'm ready to. I want to go buy a house." And within a week, we were showing them houses. Like that was exponentially quick,
And
and that's
how
definitely
soon was
not.
that?
What was that?
How quick was that for you then?
That was within probably a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so my experience is a little bit different because the traditional agent won't see results between 30 or I would say 45 to 90 days is
Okay.
when you can expect to maybe get a commission check or work your way towards that commission check. Unless you already have a deep sphere, then maybe
Mhm.
you can do it within the first 30 days.
Okay. So there's guys out there that, within 2 weeks or whatever, they get a listing. If the market's hot,
Right.
you start getting under contract. So by 45 to 90 days, you have your first check. What do you think the average first year expectations for a real estate agent should be? Is it six figures? Is that realistic? Is that common or more or less?
I'll tell you what I made in my first year. I only made $40,000 in my first year of real estate, not
Okay.
knowing anyone. I was 20 years old, and I thought it was pretty good for my first year, being like, "Hey, I just got into the business
Yeah,
and not
right.
knowing anyone here in Sarasota, right?" But like, honestly, like I've seen people make anywhere from 40,000 to maybe 90,000 in their first year,
Okay.
and then from there, it's just been exponential, right? Like for me, it's been exponential year over year over year.
Mhm.
It all just depends on your marketing at the end of the day. But the first year is really just you're trying to get your balance into the market and kind of what your unique selling proposition is going to be.
And so to make 40K, how much do you feel like the average or the average person, is investing? I mean, the real estate license, I think, is around $2,000 to $3,000 when you include like the course and stuff. Is that right?
So when you include all the courses, all the tests, all the exams, you're getting into the MLS board, you're probably about 3 grand or so all in.
Okay. Getting started. Okay. So 3 grand to get 40K. I mean, that's not bad,
No.
and then like here's the problem, right? We're talking about average. And when you have such a big pool of real estate agents where I forget the number I have, but I want to say like only like a percentage, like 5 to 10% of real estate agents would be considered like active, like they have listings and they're actually doing stuff. Like, it might sound low, like, oh yeah, 40K, like your first year, but there's a lot of people dragging that down, and then there's some people pulling up that average in the first year. Cause like you said, I think you said you had a team member that within their first few months, they were well over 40 grand. Is that right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So what got you into real estate? And how long ago was that?
So I got into real estate back in 2021.
Okay.
So for me, it was something that I was looking at. Like, I was looking at going into the medical field personally. That was my
Mm.
right in high school. It was kind of going towards the medical field. But then, I was second guessing, like, is that really something that I truly want to do? I knew that being in the medical field offered limitations, right? Obviously, to timing, schedules, travel, flexibility, stuff like that. And then so for me, I was like, okay, what can I do that's going to offer me, in theory, an unlimited cap in income
Mhm.
and the most amount of flexibility? And for me, that was going to be real estate. And what I look at real estate as is I got into real estate because I knew that was going to be a vehicle to a unique place. I don't know what that place is yet because I'm still working towards that, but I knew that real estate could open up many doors that not other people could do if you were working a traditional
Mhm.
9 to 5 job.
Mhm.
So that's why I was like, I know that real estate is going to be the place that I'm going to do or what I'm going to do. And wherever that takes me, that's where it's going to lead me. I've never closed off opportunities. I've never said no to opportunities because at the end of the day, I'm like,
Mm.
this one opportunity could lead me to down this other path, which that opportunity led me to going into the new construction world.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. What are some of the limitations for the real estate world that has you looking at custom home building, and or 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 maybe is also some of the reason why, there might be so many agents in the United States, but so few of them are active? What are some of the limitations that you've seen?
So for me, the limitations are obviously every agent. So every agent says that they're unique in a sense. They offer something that another agent can't. And that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. But if you break it down, we all offer pretty much everything very similar to one another. Now, sure, some people may have unique marketing propositions.
Right.
At the end of the day, they're just paying to have someone else promote a certain channel outlet, right? That's all it is at the end of the day. And for me, it's like that was the limitation I saw was how many houses and how many places can you go around in one day to try to get a listing, to try to, show buyers around, so forth. Your time is really constrained to either sellers or buyers. And so, yes, people can make, seven figures selling real estate, but they are also just nonstop, always grinding in the real estate world. And for me, it was like, yeah, I can do that. And that's what I do. But like, I'd rather go down another path to where I can be a little bit more creative, right? Real estate to me is not creative at all. You're basically put into a box as a real estate agent. You have to follow certain laws, certain rules, so you don't violate them and lose your license. With construction, you have a little bit more creativity on what products you can actually offer someone. Like if you came to me or like, no, I'm looking at building a custom home, literally the sky's the limit, with designs and
Yeah.
architectural styles, stuff like that. But with real estate, you live here in Sarasota. It's just like most of these houses are the exact same. Like they're the exact same style, So when you're looking at buying a house, it's not like, oh, I'm looking for this. It's going to be very hard to find that. But with custom home building, you can create that. And that's what I love about the custom home building aspect.
If somebody was looking into real estate, why? So, I mean, there's some limitations, and that's real. But why would you encourage them? Because I know you also, along with the custom home building, along with your own real estate portfolio, you do have a team as well.
Mhm.
What? Tell us a little bit about that aspect of it. What inspired you to open up a team? What do you like about that? And what are some of the positives that you share with your team about, like, hey, we're in a great, career right now as real estate people?
Oh, of course, yeah. So I have a team. I have a personal team that I actually started here in Sarasota locally, and then I have basically a countrywide team, which basically is just agents that work with me and partner with me within the brokerage that I'm with, and we, bounce ideas off of one another. We're in different marketplaces, but then my local team here in Sarasota that we have. We obviously talk specifically about what's going on in the Sarasota real estate world, and kind of what makes it so unique is, you know, I love selling real estate in Sarasota because of all the opportunities that are there, right? And
Mm,
everyone says like there may be some limitations with real estate, yes. But real estate for many people is a vehicle to another place, because real estate is where you literally meet, you can meet regular average Joes, you can meet millionaires, you can meet billionaires, just doing a real estate transaction. You can go to these events. For me, the biggest opportunity in real estate is just being able to build quality, genuine relationships with people that I know that I can leverage later down the road. And that's what I tell my team is like, whatever you're doing today is going to work for you, is going to help you later down the road. Yes, you may not see success, in the next 2 weeks, but you're trying to build a solid foundation to either exponentially grow in real estate or go down a different path.
mhm. I like that. I like that a lot. I think what is great about real estate is that it's so relationship driven, so that it's very accessible to people. There's also a very clear pathway, right? It's, sign up for the test, prepare for 72 hours, take the test, do the fingerprints, get your MLS board, find a brokerage, hang out there for at least 2 years before you even think about, you can't just open your own brokerage out of nowhere. So it's accessible and there's a pathway. I think that's one of the things where aviation falls short, is that um, there's not a clear pathway. That's one of the reasons why, with our Jet Life program, we have a certificate of completion or certification, whatever you want to call it. you know um it's a pathway where it's like, these are the skills that you need to demonstrate in order to have a professional, ethical, successful transaction in the aviation world. Um so that's what I like about real estate. I do understand what you're saying, where, and I think it's across most sales, that uniqueness is limited, because everybody says, I'll have people, reach out to me, hey, Tom, I'm struggling to get this contract signed. And I'm like, okay, well, why should somebody list their aircraft with you? Well, because I'm going to sell their plane for them. Well, so will everybody else, or because I'm a really nice guy. Well, so is everybody else. You know what I mean? They come up with these reasons that are not very unique because they're afraid to like dig, or they're not capable of right at this point digging deeper to say what really makes you, unique and stand out. It's hard to stand out. Um, and the grind, I totally get what you're saying, that it's a hamster wheel. You always have to keep your funnel full, and that becomes the same in aviation. But like you said, you build those relationships. Um, so I understand what you're saying, and I think there's good reasons to check out real estate. There's good reasons, I think, for aviation as well, because they're very similar. If you're interested in real estate, it's worth looking into aviation. And I think where you're going to fail on, where you might succeed at real estate and where you would fail on aviation is going to be, real estate's very down to earth. Like, we all have a house. We can all wrap our minds around, taxes, local school districts. I like granite countertop. I don't like, we all have a lived experience of homes, even if they're $1 million homes. Like, a door is a door, a toilet's a toilet. There's a lot, there's an analogy there. But with aviation, you may have never flown in a private jet before, and so how do you wrap your head around that? You never had to understand what avionics do, what GPS comms and navigation radios do, what does ADS-B transponder do. So there's a little bit of a learning curve there, and depending on what your life experience has been, maybe you're not used to talking with high net worth individuals. You're not used to getting a no first and then getting like 20 no's before you actually get someone to talk to you. And so there's definitely challenges there. But that's exactly what we try to do and help with the circle community. So Noah, tell us a little bit about, I guess, just kind of as we start to kind of wrap up a little bit, we talked about what the real estate pathway looks like. We talked about how to get into it. The difference between real estate, real agents, realtors, brokers, that sort of a thing, limitations of real estate, the positives of real estate. Now we're getting into the custom home building. Why, in your opinion, is custom home building? I don't know. Do you think it's like the future of where things are going, or do you just see that like people are getting sick and tired of the cookie cutter stuff? Like, where's the opportunity in the custom home building niche that drew your attention to it?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of kind of being able to be a residential real estate agent is you see the trends, right? So I can leverage that on the custom home building side. And especially during this past Hurricane Helene, it's really actually making people rethink how they're going to be building in the future, right? And these homes, that are older, maybe 20 plus years old, they may not be up to your typical Florida building codes now with FEMA elevations being raised, everything like that. And for me, I personally strongly believe that a lot of these homes are going to be either fixed up and flipped, or they're going to be fixed, torn down and rebuilt, but to a higher elevation. And I just think that construction is going to be the new custom home building is going to be the new kind of future, so to speak. Yes, everyone loved these amazing tract home communities here in Sarasota, or loved these huge developments during the pandemic. But my buyer clientele has completely shifted now ever since the pandemic has finished up. And they're like, they don't want to be in a traditional cookie cutter house anymore. They were fine being in that during the pandemic because they were just happy to get into a house. But now that they have options, they're really thinking like, do I really want to be 10 feet away from my neighbor, reach out my window door and actually sit, grab something out of their window? Like, that is legitimately the main questions that we're getting right now. And people moving out of these tract home communities and trying to focus on something a little bit more custom. And I think going onto these barrier islands where the hurricanes had hit, we're definitely going to see these homes being built up, maybe 15, 20 feet in the air instead of being the first floor elevation where they basically got 7 foot of storm surge and their whole entire first floor is annihilated.
Yeah. I think when you think about cookie cutter, at best, if we want to grant as much grace, towards developers and builders and stuff like that, we don't want to villainize them. At best, they're trying to get as many people into a desirable location as possible. Great. Okay, cool. At worst, though, it's really about the developer, the builder, and the profit. With the custom
Yes.
homes, I think you have, I think you, again, generalizations, but what I like about the custom homes is that it brings the real estate experience back into the hands of the owners. I mean, so much pride and and so much pride and a sense of accomplishment, I think, was made, when people first started moving to areas. How many times do you hear in the older areas, like, my grandfather built this house with his bare hands,
Mhm.
um, what you're doing is you're giving people the opportunity to experience that sense of, we built this house, but of course, without having to literally get a hammer and nail, because I would have no idea how to build a house, and it would just, the first little wind of the hurricane, it's just going to be, if somebody sneeze and all of a sudden the roof's going to come off, type of thing. But you're giving people that opportunity to put a little bit of themselves. It becomes a piece of art. It becomes a piece of who they are. Like, people just, that's part of the human experience, just to kind of put ourselves out into material, and what's more a part of your life than the place that you're going to live. I might be getting too philosophical here, but I just think that there's a really cool mind shift that comes into custom homes. And let me just stop there. I just think it's really cool what you're getting
Well,
into.
I'd like to add on to that really quick. Is I've seen the difference between mainly all the custom homes that we build. The clients are literally saying, "This is my last home that I'm going to build, and this is a home that
Mm,
I'm going to be able to pass down to my kids or my grandkids." When I sell a track home community, now nothing's wrong with a track home because everyone,
right.
it's I usually in an ideal location, right? And the price point's a little bit different. But I have not once heard someone say they are excited to pass this down to their kids.
I love that. That's a great point. Just out of curiosity, and I'm hoping that we could dispel a myth here, but, like, how accessible is a custom home? Like, for me, I'm thinking, like, well, if I want a custom home, I better be ready to drop $1 million, like, done. Like, can I get a custom home that's more affordable than that, or is it really, unfortunately, for the big spenders?
No, not at all. The biggest thing is being able to acquire the land. The
Okay.
land is honestly going to be the trickiest part. It depends on where you are, but here in Sarasota, the land is what really drives up these custom home prices. If you can find land more affordable, you could build a custom home for $500,000 or just a little less, and it can still
Mhm.
feel like a quality home. Once again, it just comes down to getting that land acquired first.
Perfect. Cool. Well, if people want to find out more about real estate, possibly joining your team, or maybe they're listening and they need a custom home, or they're looking to custom homes, like, where can people find out more information? And just so you know, we are going to answer there. I got two questions in here, but where can people find out more information about you, Noah?
No, of course. I mean, the best way to connect with me is reaching out through Instagram, and you can obviously put the links wherever you're going to put them. Otherwise, if you guys want to look at custom homes, our custom home building company is Jane Development Group. You can just search that up in Sarasota, and you will be able to find that. And then obviously, you can go to noawardgroup.com, and then that also has all my brokerage information along with our custom home building company.
Perfect, perfect. Well, let's check out some questions real quick before we let you go. I've got Shahab over here is talking about, he's 32 years old, lost everything and starting over, feels completely lost. All he knows is sales, but he's done with the car sales. Um, what are your thoughts? I mean, just I imagine you've probably worked with some people that have some sales experience, maybe even car sales. I have, so I can definitely speak into how aviation, how you can, what a path through aviation would look like for a former car salesperson. But um, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, here's what I love about people that are in car sales, and I've dealt with a couple of them, is that if they already have that mindset, I personally believe that car sales, you have to grind a lot more because the commissions are a lot less. But
Mm,
if they already have that work ethic to be a car salesman, I feel like the path to real estate is going to be fairly easy, besides obviously taking the licensing course and everything like that. I just feel like being able to leverage your car sales experience, but just transition that into maybe a higher ticket item, like selling a house. Now, obviously, aviation is going to be a little bit different because your clientele is a lot different than a car salesman versus an aviation client.
yeah, I think what I've noticed with I had a few guys with the car sales. The good news is that they're not afraid of no. they're used to know, so they're not afraid of it. The bad news is that they forget the clientele that we're working with. Number one, it's a longer sales cycle. So with car sales, usually somebody walks in, maybe it's that day, or maybe it's a week, maybe 2 weeks, whatever, and then you can build a book of business if that's going to be your career. But and even in real estate, like you said, I mean, you're probably at least 30, 45, 90 days, of a sales cycle when you're working with someone. With aviation, it seems as of late, I mean, we're getting listings, and it's once you get the listing, it could be 69 to 120 days till the listing sells. And it might take you 2 months, 3 months to get the listing. So you might not get a paycheck for 6 months. So that's kind of the thing that they have to be aware of. Um, but I think there's definitely opportunity in the aviation world as well, when you're working with the right brokerage and the right team to kind of lead you down the path. But it is a new thing that you're going to have to learn. So that'll be kind of the hiccup of it. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. We've got another question from Ben. Aviation sales or real estate, which will be more profitable in the long run? Here's what I can say, and define long run. My first year, I did six figures. I made 100K. Guys who are with me. So Noah and I were talking about right now. We've got 15 team members with Jet Life Era who are aspiring brokers, who are brokers right now, right? The guy who's been with us the longest, Alex, had $60,000 in his bank account after 6 months. He took his foot off the gas, and that's what that was his first year. Commission is 60K his first year. He's due to close on a deal this month. So that'll be his 18 months. He'll make over 100 grand in his commissions. My second, third year, by my third year, that year I closed and took home almost $600,000 that third year. And that was that's just what I did. Right. So I can speak to like that. And then I'll say now 5 years into it, my last 2 years have been closer to just 100 grand, but a lot of it's going right back into the business. So it's like we feel like we're making nothing at some point. But we're doing all right. And so, I think in aviation, if you do the simple stuff, I think you should be able to make 100 grand a year. Like that's my expectation. But what I am finding is with the team, and they'll be the first to tell you, like, they're not making 70 to 100 calls every single day consistently for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row to generate what needs to be done. And so that's kind of where that lands. So in the long run, I like how Noah explained his play. Like he started real estate selling, then he got into the custom home building. So the long play for a broker, I think, is sell, build up a nest egg, and then start looking in the investment world in aviation. Can you find a fix and flip? Can you put your money at stake to buy an airplane cheap? Can you flip it up and make, a six-figure commission on one deal? That's one way to do it. Or you go into, a charter operations or management. Like there's a pathway. So I would say aviation sales in the long run can be very profitable, from 100 grand to $500,000 just as a broker per year. You can get that set up. It'll take you a couple of years to do it. But I think it's possible. It is going to be a little bit of a hamster wheel, though, to Noah's point earlier. Depends on how you build your book of business.
I'd like to add on that just really quick is I think whether you're in aviation sales or if you're in real estate, I mean, building relationships is going to be key. Like I'm not going to disclose, but like, yeah, I told you my first year I made 40K, but after that year, my year 2, year 3 has exponentially grown. And that's aside from the custom home building company. Like I've closed multiple, 6 figures in a year and 6 figures in 1 month. Like, it all came down to the relationships. The relationships that I built in year 1 are what really paid off in year 2 and year 3.
Wow.
And I think that happens in aviation sales too, I assume, is what you do your first year, it doesn't matter if you make 40K, if you make 100K. I'm looking at it from a 2 to 3 year perspective. Is everything I do in my first year is what is going to exponentially grow me into year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5.
Love it. Hayden, listen up, man. That's great though. That's really encouraging. And I think you're absolutely right. I didn't think of it that way, but I try to get these guys to their first year, like 100K, like that's the carrot that we're dangling at the end of the stick. Of
course.
But to your point, like even if you don't reach that, like the skills that you learn and acquire along the way is what's going to feed you and make you capable of those big deals in the next years. I love that. That's great. Figure if you here's a question. From an investor side, is it possible to do both? I mean, I guess that's more of a time management thing and resources. I mean, but it comes down to relationships. So I think it's tough. When people ask me if I can do both, whether it's can I work as a jet broker part time or can I get another job or whatever, I'm usually like, depends on your expectations.
I'd like to add on that because I've always been fascinated by the broker or by the jet broker world myself. And I was even thinking about getting into jet brokering as a side thing. But at the end of the day, it questions, okay, what I do with the jet broker side, is that going to take away from what I'm doing with my real estate side? And the answer to that is yes. Am I willing to sacrifice what I'm doing and what I've built up for the past 3 years in real estate to then do something else in the jet broker side? And to my point, it's no, but some people can be a little bit different, but you're stretching yourself into two different paths when you could just literally go all in on one industry and then have different segments and different branch offs, kind of like what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think it's better to go deep than go wide when you're talking about your income. Until you get it under control. Like once
Mhm.
you get it under control, maybe you start real estate, maybe you start with a brokerage that encourages building a team. You get your team up and running, and you can step back a little bit so you're not doing as many deals, but you can still service your team. And now you have, 5, 10, 15 hours a week that you can go over here and do custom home building, or you can do whatever else. But one step at a time. I wouldn't try to do both right away. Oh, here's a good one. Does aviation sales get affected by the economy just like real estate? How is real estate right now with the economy?
That's why I love being in the construction industry along with real estate sales, because here's the thing is that real estate sales can be very up and down, very huge waves. Like when a hurricane hits, real estate like slows down in this whole entire area. Like when Ian hit, it
Oh wow.
was completely slow if you think about it. And like right now, the hurricane hits, so people are obviously rebuilding, which that's when our construction company goes in. And so even though a hurricane is a terrible event, real estate sales may struggle just a little bit because people are a little weary, but then construction starts to pick up. So for me, that's why I put my hands in two different pots, because real estate sales go up and down. You may have a six-figure month, you may then have a $0 month. I would know because I've had that happen to me. And so it's very up and down. But once again, even in a bad market, you just have to work harder. So like if you want your income to be as steady as possible, you may just work less one month because it's a little bit easier. But when the market goes down, you just work harder and you can make the exact same income.
Louder for the people in the back, please. That's what I'm telling people. Like we look at the trends, and Ben, to your question, like last year was the slowest year since 2009, I believe. And if you look at the quarterly transactions, like 600 in the first quarter, 800 in the second quarter, 900 in the third quarter, 1,000 transactions in the fourth quarter, um, we are trending like it was in 2008, 2009. But the good news is that it still trended positive. So it slacked off, but then from 2009, and then it dipped a little bit from 2008, 2009, but then from 2009 up, it just kept going up. It just like the number of transactions continued to, like, there was never a big dip. So for example, if last year there were, let's see, let's just say 7 times 4, 2,800 transactions. The worst year before that was maybe 2,500 transactions. Okay, so we're not talking like a complete, the market totally shut down. And when we look at it this year, yeah, it was a slow first quarter, second quarter, I think it was like 600, 700, no, 600, 600. It popped in the third quarter to 800. So we're even like different there. So as far as how aviation is tied to the economy, like yeah, things will slow down, right? Yeah, if the banks aren't lending money, like there's going to be less transactions because the interest rates are high. If it's an election year, people don't know how they're going to, um, how they're going to favor or not favor aviation, whether it's on climate stuff or it's on taxing stuff, whatever, whatever. But you just got to work through it. To Noah's point, like you just know that it's going to be a little tougher, and you got to step up and do it. And dude, I'm so sorry to keep. I just, I
You're
just
all good. I got time. We're fine.
okay, cool. Because like Ben's just firing away with these great questions, and I think this is the last one. But The good thing about real estate, there's more houses to sell than jets. What do you think about that?
So my only theory is a house is an everyday, I shouldn't say an everyday item, but it's going to be a main staple for most people here in the United States. Like a house is something that pretty much most people could obtain, right? And however, that the housing market is strictly tied to how well the economy is doing, because having a jet, in my opinion, is an ultra luxury, or it's a luxury, right? So it's an additional thing that, yes, it gets impacted by the economy, but I don't feel like it would get impacted as much as real estate, because real estate is what an everyday Joe is going to buy. An everyday Joe is not going to buy a private jet. So they obviously have that extra money to spend, but when people in the economy start struggling, that's when real estate really starts to struggle, is because those everyday Joes are highly impacted by inflation or wage cuts or whatever that may be. That impacts how much they can afford on a mortgage.
No, that is an excellent point. You think about the top 1% of individuals, they either saw this coming or they have hedged their bets to where if the economy goes south, they can find ways to make money. That's why they're in the position that they're in. In terms of, more houses than jets to sell, yes, that is true, Ben. But I will say that when you look at the numbers, as far as I think, let's say, I think I remember the numbers like 4 million real estate. Let me know if let's just do this real quick. I think the question I had was how many real estate transactions in 2023. This is okay. So there were 4 million transactions. How many real estate agents in 2023? And then it came up with, let's see, there's 360 brokerages, 1.54 million realtors. So if we do 1.5 and then 3 million, 4 million, so that would end up being what? 4 by 1.5. That's like 2 houses, 3 houses per agent. But they're not all active, right? How many active? Oh, great. And my Bluetooth shut down. I think when we do the math, it's about, what would you guess, active real estate agents?
10% of it, like,
Yeah.
honestly.
Real estate agents in the USA, 1.35 active, 2 million license. Okay, so okay, here it is. So 4 million. Okay, so 4 million sales for 2 million. That's two sales per person, approximately 1.35. So if we took, yeah, that's what I did. Okay, so if we did 2 million, and you times that by 5%, that's 100,000 real estate agents. So really, the real estate agents, if they had 4 million sales and only 100,000 of them were actually active. Okay, that's okay. And then if you look at jets in the world, it comes out to be roughly the same, is what I'm trying to point out here, is that for as many houses as there are for real estate agents, the actual slice of the pie of agents that got it, it's the same for jet brokers, where there's so few jet brokers and so few jets that the average active jet broker is getting 2 to 3 sales, 2 to 3 transactions per year. And that's average. So in order to be above average, to get like 10 or 20 sales a year, you're only beating out about, I think it was like maybe a couple hundred people. I'll have to find the Instagram that I did, but it's competitive. Like, you might think that there's a smaller pool of product, but there's also a smaller pool of people who are selling the product. So you're still working just about the same. It's not like there's more opportunity, in my opinion. I don't know if those numbers make sense to you or not.
No, and I also want to add to, it doesn't matter how many licenses or how many licensees are out there in the world, because most of them aren't active. You really have to focus on, like, for example, there's 10% of agents that are going to do most of the production in the United States out of all the 2 million. And probably it's the same with jet brokers, but just a different percentage. Like, it doesn't matter how many licensees are out there, it's how many licensees that are actually actively producing in that given field.
Right. And then that's where I would give the advantage to jet brokering, because to be in the top percent of 4 million real estate agents, you need to beat out, what is that, 400,000 or 40,000 people?
Yeah.
To be in the top 10% of 3,000 jet brokers in the world, you have to beat out 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather beat out 300 people than 30,000. So that's where, yeah, I think that's just a number thing that I get the question a lot, when I talk about real estate versus jet brokers. So I wanted to kind of have that conversation with you. But no, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to add before we close up shop, man?
No, I mean, we'll just have to come back for a part 2. That's all I got to say.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much, and we'll catch you on part 2.
Fantastic.